In this episode, we will be looking at a looming crisis that is brewing in China, as hundreds of thousands of unsold, polluting gas-powered vehicles may be rendered unsellable due to incoming emissions rules. It's another sign that the global auto industry isn't ready for the shift to EVs and will be caught unawares if it doesn't ramp EV production fast enough. The new Chinese emissions rules were announced all the way back in 2016 and are set to go into effect in July. This gave automakers almost 7 full years of notice to get it together and prepare to produce and sell less polluting vehicles, more than enough time to bring a new model fully from original conception to production. The rules don't ban all gas cars, but they do set stricter emissions standards on several pollutants released by internal combustion vehicles. Carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, particulates, and other pollutants must all be reduced by a half or a third. Automakers seem to have planned to continue selling polluting vehicles up until the deadline, but then COVID hit. This affected the production of vehicles but also affected purchases. Auto sales dropped, and while sales have started to recover somewhat, most of that recovery has been in EV sales, while ICE sales are still depressed. Dealership foot traffic is high, but customers simply aren't buying. This has left dealers with a huge glut of polluting vehicles and a ticking clock that will make them unsellable in July. China was originally somewhat slow to adopt EVs. In 2015, EV market share was less than 84%, similar to the US market share of 66% and well below California at 3.1% at the time. But in 2022, US market share had risen to only 7.2% and California to 18.7%, whereas China's EV market share is now a whopping 30%, leapfrogging several countries in the process. So China was a little late at the start but has advanced much more quickly in recent years, catching companies by surprise. As a result, dealers have been offering massive discounts on polluting inventory vehicles, but this hasn't been enough. Even the government has stepped in, with provincial governments adding additional subsidies to reduce the price of locally produced vehicles. Rapidly dropping prices have resulted in a wait-and-see attitude among Chinese buyers. Given that prices are already falling, customers think that they can wait longer and that these prices will fall even further. Given the dealers and manufacturers are confronted with a situation where their cars will soon become valueless and that there simply aren't enough customers interested in buying the number of cars they have in inventory, any price they can get for the cars that's greater than zero may be worthwhile come July. But the problem most harshly affects foreign automakers in China. Chinese companies have been faster to adopt EVs than foreign ones, so automakers from Europe, Japan, and the US will be most affected by this glut of vehicles. Sales from Chinese brands are flat year over year, but sales from US brands are down 12%. German and Korean brands are down 22%, and Japanese and French brands are down more than 40%. China's car dealership associations are scrambling for a fix. The China Auto Dealers Chamber of Commerce, CADC, asked that the emissions rules be delayed 6 months, until January 1, to help clear the backlog. This is not an unexpected request from a Chamber of Commerce, organizations which so often take the side of polluters over people, but the CADC also requested that automakers stop production of new cars that don't meet the upcoming standards immediately, rather than continuing their production plans up until July. China's turnaround on EV adoption may be an exceptional case. It has gone from a relative laggard to one of the global leaders and now stands only behind Northern Europe in current EV market share. The timing of COVID, the rapid shift to EVs, and new emissions rules have created somewhat of a perfect storm in the country. But make no mistake, similar trends will play out elsewhere in the world in the coming years, and many automakers simply are not ready. It takes time to design, build, and distribute vehicles, as these companies know well. But the inability to project trends 7 years into the future will prove to be the downfall of laggard companies that don't take EVs seriously. I don't say this in an attempt to function as some sort of oracle of the automotive industry, but from simple observation of events happening now. We've seen other regions shift to EVs faster than expected. Even Norway, long known to be a standout in EV adoption, has taken many by surprise. The country planned to end gas car sales in 2025, but it's already basically there. This has resulted in some brands hastily withdrawing their gas cars from the Norwegian market. Hyundai only gave a few days of notice that they would stop selling gas cars in the country at the start of this year. This sort of thing is possible in a country that's part of a large economic bloc where cars can be shifted around to other nations, but when the entire bloc goes electric, what then? We get a situation like China's, with stranded vehicles that may end up being worth nothing or close to it. We've also seen some drivers, not even high mileage ones, realize that renting, fueling, and maintaining an EV is cheaper than the continued running costs of using a paid-for gas car. When that happens, the value of the gas car is effectively zero. It's worse to continue driving it than it is to get a whole new EV. It doesn't take much to see that these trends could result in a full-on bank run to abandon gas cars and buy EVs, depending on how unbalanced the supply-demand equation becomes. Tesla started selling cars in 2008, and 100% of those cars were electric. But it only really got into mass production in 2012 to 2014 with the Model S. At the time, one could look at a chart of sales trends of the Model S versus competing models like the BMW 7 Series, Mercedes E and S Class, Lexus and Audi offerings, etc., and see a strange dip in all of them which coincided with the rise of Model S sales. Tesla wasn't creating a new market, it was eating the market that existed, and fast. And these trends continued with other models. It was clear that EVs, as long as they were designed to take advantage of the inherent benefits of electric drive and sold with purpose rather than as compliance vehicles, were going to take market share from gas cars. The company making these moves loudly proclaimed that in order to make EVs work, one needed to ensure that they had enough batteries to manufacture these cars, enough dealers who cared to sell and knew how to sell these cars, and a suitable charging network for owners to get around in a transparent manner. So it did those things. All around a decade ago. This wasn't a secret, other automakers could see it happening. What do you think about the looming crisis that is brewing in China, as hundreds of thousands of unsold, polluting gas-powered vehicles may be rendered unsellable due to incoming emissions rules? Drop your comment below. Please give us a thumbs up to enable us reach more people and don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next. Thanks for watching.